Going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I got my good friend here, fellow collaborator, Kosa Akaraiwe. How are you, buddy? How's everything?
I'm good, man. Doing great. And you?
Doing great. Same old, man. Just, being cooped up, waiting for the time we can get out, collaborate again,
Mm-hmm.
right? How's,
Are you
what's up,
are
sorry?
you already has the lockdown been relaxed up where you are?
Yeah, we're in red zone now. So what that means,
Mm.
people that don't know, is I guess capacity is increased. You can start going into restaurants, maybe only like 10 people,
Nice.
just to help the
Nice.
businesses, I guess, stay alive, right? I heard Toronto, it's a buddy of mine went down there, did like an Airbnb just for a couple of nights, but he said the city's dead. Is he right about
Yeah.
that? Toronto?
Yeah, it's still completely locked down. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? You think they should open up soon?
Man, anything for the health and safety, man. Like I know the
Hmm.
businesses is suffering and stuff, but honestly, it's a tough situation. I even if they open up, I'm gonna be at home because I'm not gonna jeopardize
For
my
sure.
the next 50, 60 years of my life for one summer of enjoyment. You know what I mean? So
Getting that those long haul symptoms, that's some scary shit, man. I've heard about that,
exactly,
where
and
they
not
still have pain in their joints.
yeah, exactly. So I'm staying in.
Yeah, that's smart, man. That's the same attitude I kind of have, and I always tell people to, if especially if you're living with loved ones that are in more critical condition, their health. You don't want to compromise their health, right? For going out and enjoying yourself. But yeah, man, I remember we were speaking leading up to the podcast. You were mentioning you had an acting class yesterday. How did that go?
It was good. It was an introductory class. It's with the Actors Work Studio with Samora Smallwood. Samora Smallwood is a Toronto actress who started the studio because she wanted to give actors. She saw some things in some of the acting classes that she attended which she didn't like, and she decided she's going to start her own studio and work on the things she didn't like and give actors a better space. So I've been working with the studio since 2018
Wow.
October. So
Yeah,
wow, I really enjoyed it
time
so
flies.
far. Yeah, so gotta
How's
keep
and,
on
and
with
I'm
it.
and I'm assuming you're learning a lot, like new techniques and
Yeah, I've
more
been
about the
learning a
craft.
lot. And she really gives you the opportunity to kind of learn yourself more. I actually worked with her for the role in the film we worked on to get the craft. So we went
Oh,
through the
great.
entire script, and she read the entire script, and then we went through the entire script for the character that I played, and
Nice.
she gave me a lot to think about for my performance. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, it's very important as creatives, right? We have that back and forth.
Exactly.
She probably gave you some new ideas, different perspective on how to perform the character, portray the character, I should
Exactly.
say.
Exactly.
But I've never been to an acting class. Well, I should say I did once an acting class with Rain Dance Toronto. But can you kind of take us through what someone would experience going through an acting class? Like, what are the techniques you learn or the lessons?
So yeah, I guess it's all it's all very different for every different class. But for this class, she focuses a lot on nailing the auditions and nailing the self tapes. So what happens is that during the first class, we kind of go through all the techniques that would be very helpful for nailing an audition, nailing a self tape, creating a. I think she pulls a lot from Stella Adler, and
Mhm.
it's all about like knowing the character, knowing the backstory behind the character, creating the whole life for your character, which uh, you would pull from that during your audition. And then after the first class, we're assigned scenes that we work on every week, different scenes every week, and then we perform them in class, and then we get constructive feedback after performing it. And I think usually we're between 6 to 10 in the class. So we just spend the entire class watching each other's performances and getting constructive feedbacks for each of the performances. So that's
Yeah,
really what it is.
nice. That's very similar to my experience that class I took, those 3 sessions, and it was very nerve wracking for me. And I wanted to ask you that, or I wanted to tell you that takes a lot of courage. Um, how was it
Yeah, it
when you?
does.
Yeah,
It does.
how was it that first experience though? Like in 2018, when you took these classes, were you nervous
I
or are
was
you
so
really
scared.
confident? Oh yeah,
I was so scared. I always went. I tried to always go last, but Danny was in the class as well. So Danny always
All
went
right.
last. So I was always second to the last. It was nerve wracking. I was so scared. And then there are all these other actors, actresses in class. I was like, God, these guys are all killers. Like these guys are so good. So it was really hard to not compare yourself to other people. But then, you just keep working, keep getting constructive feedback. Like there's a lot of things that I like. I've watched my tapes from before, and I'm like, wow, like I've come a bit since then. So pretty grateful for the Actors Work Studio.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's important to keep practicing your craft and be persistent at it. And I know you've had some trouble too, especially with the lockdown. Were you able to still go to these classes, or probably not, or you couldn't do them over virtual?
So we actually had them in person from September to October, and then everything got locked down again.
Hmm.
So we finished it over virtual, but then the new session that we're doing is self-tape intensive, and it's all virtual. Like we're not going to perform in class over self-tapes. We're going to send in self-tapes, and then we're going to watch the self-tapes in class. And she brought a couple casting directors or monologue slam judges and all that who are going to watch the tapes with everyone and give constructive feedback for each person. So should be exciting.
Yeah, I saw the monologue you posted the other day on Instagram and commended you for it. It was really good, man. It
Thank you.
to show that vulnerability. It's important, right?
I'm
Um,
glad. I'm
to keep
glad.
going, yeah, for your
I
craft.
almost I almost didn't post it. It took me like a lot of my friends told me, man, you better post this. You better post it because I was not gonna post it.
Well, soon everyone's going to see your face with this film. We'll discuss further about Cracked that we collaborated on
Amen.
because you're the
Yeah.
lead, bro. You're the face
Yeah.
of the project,
Yeah.
and it's important, yes, to just believe in yourself that way and give it a shot because people like myself or anyone that's interested in filmmaking will see that and be inspired to do the same for themselves, right?
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard. It's very easy to get imposter syndrome and
Of course.
think I'm not good enough or I shouldn't be doing this and all that. But the thing about life is you never give up, right? Like you would never succeed if you never try in the first place.
Yeah.
And so you just gotta keep pushing, 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 pushing. Life is an endless life is an endless push against
Challenges,
challenges. Yeah.
obstacles, people telling you it won't happen. Just so many circumstances really. For me, the big thing is social media, right? As creatives, it's so easy or so tempting. You go on one of those hashtags, you put in your caption, and you just see like people that are doing other works, right? And
Yeah.
it's normal to feel, oh, I'm not doing as much, or maybe I'm not as good. But I think what I take into account and what you also take into account, what we told each other, is you got to look at your own journey, your own path, and
Yeah.
see how far you've come yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
don't know where they're coming from and you don't know what they were born into. You don't
Yeah.
know who they knew, right? Because that
Yeah.
plays a huge push. If you ever hear the success stories, there's always that one guy or woman that helps a person along the way or puts them
Yeah.
to another point, right?
Yeah, and it's very hard, especially like on social media. If you follow, like, since I started acting Toronto, like I kind of follow a lot of other Toronto actors and actresses, and it's funny because you see them getting booked, you see them doing jobs, you see people that are, I would say, on the same people that are on the same kind of journey with you. You see them doing great things, and it's kind of hard not to compare yourself. But like you said, you always got to remember, like, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's obstacles they face are different, and what it takes to overcome everyone's obstacles are also different as well. So gotta just not compare yourself.
Exactly, man. What made you pursue a career in acting?
So I'd always loved acting all my life. Like when I was a kid, uh, I loved projects that had performances. Like, let's say in English class, if I think every every year there was one project that was always like a play or a drama. I always really enjoyed those kind of projects. Uh, when I was 8 or 9, I did this French class, this summer French camp, and we did a play Italian French. I don't speak French, but we did a play Italian French, and that was like my best
Italian and
experience.
French? The play?
Entirely in
Oh, entirety in French. So my bad.
yeah, yeah, and it was my highlight of the summer. So I always knew I loved performance, acting, plays, and all that, but I never knew how to get started. And then university came, I ended up studying econ, but
Mhm.
I was always involved with TV McGill. I went to McGill University, by the way. I was always involved with TV McGill.
Nice.
I always did plays for the McGill African Society. I was always involved with like plays, Montreal Improv, and all that. And so I kind of always had this nagging feeling that I wanted to be an actor or a performer, but then I just didn't see how viable it was, you know, because I was like, how do I get that first start?
Mhm.
So I Googled acting classes Toronto. First thing that came up was Second City, Toronto. Then I started taking acting classes there. And then I saw an audition for a Nigerian web series, did the audition. My first ever audition, booked the gig.
Nice.
And so from there on is just that just kind of kickstarted my journey. And you know, I'm still in my corporate job, but you know, I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to, you know, leave that all behind and be a full-time working actor.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's I like that you just said where you're still working a corporate job. A lot of creatives I talk to, it's that dilemma, right? They don't know when's the right time. I know for me, I didn't know when was the right time to kind of go full force and give it a shot and see what happens with it, or you know, the have that financial security. I think any person in the arts, that's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very important that you know you have that conversation with yourself and you know when the right time is to make the move, right?
Yeah.
And a big thing for me, like for instance, I you know gave myself a year, and now it's extended because of this pandemic because I didn't expect the pandemic to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it is important that you give yourself that room to, like you said, do something different, do something with a risk before your deathbed, because I don't know, man, this pandemic has showed me so much that life is really short. And
Mm-hmm.
people forget, like, yeah, older folks are dying, but what about the ones in their 20s? Or there's a 19-year-old that died closer to my area. I'm sure you heard about him in the long-term care home.
No,
And
I
I'm saying
didn't
to
hear about
myself,
that.
yeah, but 19, right? Like, you remember when you were 19, it's like
Yeah.
this guy had his whole life ahead of him. He probably had hopes and dreams like us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure he was happy because apparently he was doing what he loved. He was contributing to his community. That's why he worked at the long-term care home.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, imagine if he wasn't. Imagine if he was doing a job that he had to do or he felt
Mm-hmm.
like he needed to do. But deep down inside, he wanted to pursue filmmaking or he wanted to be an artist, musician,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's
Wow,
very important.
19.
I'm glad that,
Was it
sorry,
from
yeah, yeah, 19. I can't remember exactly. I
COVID?
believe it's Scarborough. Yeah, yeah, COVID. Yeah, of course. He got it through the long term care home because
Oof.
he was working there. He was volunteering.
Wow.
I think it's the youngest death in Ontario. I could be wrong, but I know it's one of the youngest. And it was really bad. It drew a lot of media attention for a while, and it just makes you think, makes you realize how grateful you should be, but also makes you think anything could happen at any time, right? And that's why I sound so passionate and hungry about pursuing my dream and making things happen as soon as I can. Is I know that we don't have life is long in the creative sense. Like there's a lot to achieve and there's a lot to learn from, but life is also very short in that if you don't wake up, if you don't figure out your goals, your intentions, they could slip by you. And that's the last thing you want. Regret is a huge burden. And I have grandparents that are still alive and, you know, I love them. They lived a long life, but it is scary. Gary Vee once said this, that serial entrepreneur on the internet, that when you hear an old person talk about regret and what they should have done and what they shouldn't have, listen, life isn't going to be perfect. Your life's not going to be perfect. You're going to have your own regrets. But the last thing I wanted, and I'm sure you can agree with this, is to regret not pursuing something that you absolutely love. And that is the arts, that is film.
Yeah.
So credit to you for sure, for sticking to your guns and, you know, making that move. And which leads us to my next point about, you know, Cracked, right? This is something you reached out to me, something you wanted to collaborate on. And now we're waiting for the world to see it. Cracked tells a story of a young man suffering with mental illness, I should say. And it centers on the subject of mental health. I wanted to know from you, what made you want to tackle such a subject?
Yeah. So I think from personal experience, because at the point in time where we came up with the story, I was kind of struggling with this kind of existential crisis. Like, what am I doing in my life? Like, why am I not getting booked? Why am I not getting auditions? Why am I just floating around? Like, is acting ever gonna work out for me? So I was pretty upset. Mm-hmm. And then one day in class in the actors work studio, which I spoke about earlier,
right,
Samora, our coach, said, if you're not getting auditions, write your own thing, do your own thing, make your own lane for yourself. And then something just sparked in me. I was like, I wrote in my book, write your own script. And so I thought for a while, script, ideas. And then I just came up with this idea, and then I hit Danny up. Hey, Danny, I have this cool idea. Danny Mariathis,
yeah. I just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, you guys both collaborated on this project, like created this project together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hit him up. I'm like, yo, I have this cool idea, man. It could be a nice script for us to act in, let's work on it. And then he came over to my house pre-COVID. Came over to my house, and we brainstormed for like 3 hours, came up with the initial storyline, and then he wrote the script, the first version, and then we went back and forth, editing like 6, 7, 8 versions, and then we had cracked. And then we called you up. Yeah. I was like, oh, what's up? Daniel, we worked together on the 48-hour film challenge. You gave me good vibes. I want you to direct my film. So,
and I'll be honest, I wanted to mention though, with the 48-hour, I had a really fun time. We were in Liberty Village, and I just came back actually from California. So that was really fun to collaborate and get back into the groove, get back into being creative. And what was funny is that when we last kind of saw each other until we reconnected, I honestly didn't expect to hear from anyone back so soon. I was, just hoping to hear from the premiere of our film that we created, and that was it. So when I got that DM from you that you wanted to connect, I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, I was very flattered. And, we met up, and I remember you discussing the subject matter, and I was telling you, this is something that I even told Danny and Mariathis, like on the podcast that we were doing, this is something that I would love to, express and help you guys bring this project to life, because mental illness is something I think everyone goes through, especially millennials. Is that what drew you to this dark, kind of gritty storytelling, the kind of the experiences you went through as well?
Yeah, it wasn't like the story itself. I haven't gone through what the character has gone through in the story, but then I did have the voice in my head always telling me that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't doing enough, or I wasn't trying my hardest. So, it kind of made me want to tell this story and put it on camera. And it was perfect because it felt like what I was going through in my head. It was an opportunity to like make a film, it was an opportunity to put myself on tape. So everything just came together. And I never said this before, but I was really, really scared to message you, man. I was so scared.
Why is that, man?
I was just scared, like I was so shy to message you, because I was like, what if he says no? What if it's not good enough? What if it's not up to his level? I was really worried. And to be honest, everyone I messaged, because putting together this project, like, it was like, apart from one actress that auditioned, everyone else, I messaged them to be on the gig. I messaged Danny to help me write it. I messaged Marianne to help us produce. I messaged you to direct. Yeah. So it was always like, from all the messages, there was only one person who read the script and ghosted, and I was just worried.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I reached out to someone before.
Sorry, go ahead, man.
Sorry, yeah, I reached out to someone before I reached out to you.
Okay, yeah.
For not in a
no, but that's what I wanted to get at as well, because I remember you telling me that when you approached me. Is for anyone listening, like, it wasn't that I was the first pick he had in mind. He was telling me that it was very transparent. You said we're circulating this amongst directors, right, cinematographers, and we want to see everyone's take, and we're just kind of assessing everyone's style. But please, what happened with that when you connected with him?
Yeah, so we had a conversation. We talked about the script. into it the same way you're into it. But then
Nice.
he said he's gonna go back and read the script, and then when he read the script, he just goes to didn't respond
I
again.
honestly hate when that happens. Like, just have the decency to be like, yeah, I'm good, bro.
Yeah. So I was like, man, like I like this guy. We had this good vibes, and
Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint him. I don't want him to think like I don't know what I'm doing. So I was really scared to message you, man. I was like, should I just save this for later when I have something better for him? You know what I mean? But I'm glad you picked up the call, man. I'm glad you.
Well, I'm glad you reached out, man, because we see now how we work together and what we can both bring to the table. I know you learned some new things with myself, and I definitely learned some new things with you. So I think that was very important. And I one of those guys, I get, my buddies tease me about it, but I believe in the meant to be kind of aspect where, if we're on the same path, on the same journey, those forces will bring us together, and I think we were meant to tell this story, along with Danny Mariathis. So, that also happens when people kind of ghost in film. It's not something I admire, but it does happen, and you just got to roll with it. And even in the big projects, right? You hear it all the time. Projects getting like people not like dropping out because their schedule's busy, or maybe because they didn't see eye to eye creatively with the director. I remember Solo, a Star Wars story. The two directors got basically dropped from the movie, fired 3 days before post production, and they brought on Ron Howard. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Philip and Chris Lord Miller, or they directed 21 Jump Street.
So like after they already finished like filming everything, like 3 days before post, they kicked out the directors.
Because what it is the producers, right? The studio comes in, and that's more strenuous. They actually go through it with a fine comb, and they say, what have you done? What have you created? And they start seeing the footage, and and their style, they were explaining, were trying to make it like a 21 Jump Street. So it was serious in some moments, like it had emotional elements, like there was a core. However, it was a satire. It was a social commentary on like Star Wars, how big it's become. I think they were trying to do something different, but again, they didn't want to take that big risk. So yeah, 3 days, something crazy like that, man. It was all over. I remember it was all over the film community, like a month before at least. And I just say to myself, because I was in that situation in crack, like as a director, like all that time you put in, that energy, you guys saw me wear those multiple hats. It's like to pull them out like that. These things happen at any level. So if anyone's discouraged by, feeling they're ghosted or they don't want to be ghosted, embrace that failure, embrace that loss, and you'll be rewarded. I know what it's like. I guess what I'm trying to say is, to feel that shyness, reaching out, you don't know what the person's going to react to. And that even with the podcast, man, I'll be honest, even though we work together, I didn't know if you were going to respond too and say, yeah, I'd like to join. What if you were like, I'm good, man. Like, tell me when you're Joe Rogan level. Like, I don't know. Like some people are particular about that, how their brand is going to appear, how they're going to be presented on camera. But you have the same attitude, and I should have known better that it's about starting from nothing. It's about starting from the bottom, and you got to keep going. Because too many people are becoming perfect, and you can't. We're getting older, man. We're approaching, or we're in our late 20s, and what are we wasting time for? Trying to curate it, trying to make it so particular, and people have responded to it, and you get better as you go along. You get better as you go along. The more we do these interviews and conversations, you'll notice your confidence will raise as well. I know mine had since the first podcast I did back in December of last year. So I think it's very important to just keep going at the craft. And yeah, man, it's a very interesting ride. I wanted to go back to like how we were talking about the pandemic, and you were saying even if things open up, you're going to stay inside. Do you have anything though you look forward to in 2021?
Man, I look forward to hearing back from the festivals we submitted.
Oh, right. yeah, buddy. I like make a prayer every night, man. Every night.
I was literally talking to my girlfriend yesterday, and I said I wish I could just sleep and wake up in June and July when we're hearing back, because I actually can't wait. I'm in this limbo right now where I'm like, I just want to know, like, hear back from crack, hear back, know if like. Because everyone that's watched it has really liked it, but then I want to hear back from the festivals to know if what we know is good. Because I'm not saying think,
Yeah.
because I know it's good, but like if
Yes.
someone on the festival level would actually like,
Yeah, someone in the industry. I always say it,
yeah,
man. Right? It's always that recognition. A short film you saw it, right? Beautiful with the about the soccer player. It
yeah,
got recognition at that LA festival, and they actually reached out to me. They wanted it to be in their festival. A small festival, a small win for me. However, it's a piece of recognition. It was my first kind of important festival that I got that feedback,
yeah,
and it helps as a creative to. You don't need the recognition to keep going, but the time and the effort we put into it, and again, hearing from people in our community and our friends, our colleagues that commend it, we're curious, does the industry agree as well? Does the market agree?
yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I'm very excited, man. I'm curious what I get messages from time to time. I got one this morning actually. A fellow colleague working on another project, he said this shot is just beautiful, and it was with you hanging over the railing, looking over the
Uh,
railing.
uh,
Opening shot. No
yeah.
spoilers.
Well,
But yeah, if anyone's curious about these shots, by the way, on Instagram, just type in cracked short film and you'll check out the shots we're talking about.
yeah.
And we have more content to update you on, uh, to give you some synopsis. Actually, Kosa, did you want to give kind of like a quick synopsis on the film for our audience?
Okay, so Cracked is about this young man uh, who's going through the pandemic and basically losing very important very important factors in his life that he has based his happiness around, and it leads to him kind of spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
So we just follow his journey and what what uh, what happens to kind of resolve this spiral out of control. So yeah,
I wanted to ask you, because I'm like thinking about Cracked. Obviously, it discusses mental illness. We already explained that, and how it dives into, how it affects young people in general. But why do you think it affects young men, and why do you think it was a story that needed to be told?
so I just and not just young men, to be honest, young people in general, and
But I do want to interject. There is a growing number of statistics that show young men are affected more so,
yeah, yeah.
and I wanted to ask you about that.
Okay, so I just feel like in this day and age, like a lot of people are trying to kind of make it, I guess, make it in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of factors that are kind of shoved in your face, showing you that you're not good enough, or you're not doing enough, or you're not working hard enough. Same thing I said I was going through earlier, especially with social media. There's a lot of stigma around not being, I guess, financially successful,
Right.
or not professionally successful, and everyone is trying to do it earlier now, because now we see rappers in their 19s, 20s, 21s, or
Yeah.
basketball players in their 23 making $50 million a year. So everyone's trying to accelerate their journey, and not everyone's gonna make it. Not everyone's gonna do everything by the time they're 23. But then they don't realize that, and it just weighs heavily on them, and they don't know who to talk to, because they don't want to show that they're suffering because of the stigma around. I feel like there's a stigma around men really kind of opening up and speaking their true emotions, maybe amongst men or amongst like people in general, but there's a stigma around it. And when you keep burying things inside, it just keeps weighing heavier and heavier and heavier, and it can just lead you to the breaking point.
Yeah, man, it was well said. I think that's the biggest issue, from experience, growing up, and I'm sure you've gone through it as well, where it's just how we're kind of who we associate with. It's just how young men are, right? They'll joke around. We'll see on Instagram how everyone's, making money, and like you said, with rappers 19, or then you got like someone like Charlie D'Amelio on TikTok, 16. She's not even like an adult, and legally, and she's just making a shit ton of money and that popularity, and the generation that has to go through it now, just seeing that and going through that comparison. I don't know how they would do it, but I think the important thing is to put into perspective, and like you were saying, is figure out your own path, figure out your own journey, and figure out what you can contribute to. One thing that I realized is with TikTok, when it first came out, I was saying to myself, how do I use this platform to my advantage? Because I don't want to ignore any social media platform. But at the same time, I saw that a lot of things that were trending or becoming popular is, people dancing, twerking, doing all kinds of those, I don't know, challenges. And I said to myself, I think it's about being real. Is do I really want to get into that and then
Yeah.
become, not that I would become popular, but let's say I would I really want to be known for that? What if
Yeah.
it does blow up? That's my biggest thing is what do you want to be famous for if you are
Yeah.
going to be famous, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be famous to be as a model, or do you want to be famous as like a creative, a visionary, a filmmaker?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to dial it back and say, listen, I'm going to go for the long game, and
Yeah.
I'll post, these conversations, these vlogs that I do, corner talks. And yeah, it's not going to go viral. It's not going to explode. But I think over time, it'll find my own audience,
Yeah.
and that will play a big part into building my brand as a
Mhm.
filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people, young people especially, are missing is that you don't have to go on TikTok and do all the things everyone else is doing. Just be yourself
And
and
to be
learn
honest,
from your experiences. Yeah.
yeah, and to be honest, like a lot of the mistake people are making is that they're trying to be famous.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's not about being famous or being popular, because being famous or being popular, it doesn't in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything.
It's an empty pursuit.
Exactly. If you're gonna pursue fame, then you're gonna be very disappointed.
Yeah.
And you got to find what you love doing and do it and keep doing it. Keep doing it in all opportunities that you have. And you don't have to be perfect. Chasing perfection is a myth. You just gotta keep doing what you're doing. And if you're famous, then fine, congratulations.
Yeah.
But
It's a
if you
bonus.
chase fame, if you chase fame, you're never gonna find it. And even if you find it, it's gonna be so fleeting that it's not gonna satisfy you. So
Well, yeah. And I'm glad you said that because let's be real here. If you find fame fast, like let's say you do pursue it and it comes to you unexpectedly, how do you maintain that fame? I don't think a lot of young people understand that you don't just become famous and that's it. Like you coast for the rest of your life. You have to maintain that fame. And by maintaining that fame, what I'm getting at is you have to build a foundation now. You have to build a solid foundation that if you do get to that point where you're brought into the public eye, you can again maintain that brand that you've created for yourself.
mm-hmm.
See, for me, a big thing is I'm guilty of it. I wanted that instant fame, especially when you're in your early 20s and you're going through your own pressures. You're just like, yeah, I think that's what the media, you play into the media. That's what you think it's going to be. It's going to happen for you, right? It's, oh, if it works out, I'll become a famous director and I'll be probably happier and I'll be able to do this project and that project. And as you get older, you mature and you realize, wow, first of all, there's a lot of work that it takes to get to that point. All the people I admire, Tarantino. And it also requires a lot of tenacity. It requires a lot of practice and really mental strength. If you look at all your heroes, right? I wanted to ask you about that. Who are your heroes? And it's just something that a lot of people need to take into consideration, where I told myself, if I do become famous, let's say tomorrow, okay, how do I keep that fame, or how do I maintain the brand that I've created for myself? And then that's when I put into perspective and I realized, oh, wait, it shouldn't happen that fast because I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still happy with my craft. I still am confident. I believe in myself, and I wouldn't be in it if I didn't. I always tell people, like, people would always ask, what makes you keep pursuing film or the arts? Because it's so unpredictable, right? It's not a secure, structured kind of path. And for me, it's more like I'm only doing it because I feel like I have a shot. Time will
Yeah.
tell. And I feel like you need to have that attitude. A lot of people might hear this and think, oh, that's egotistical to say, but I feel like you need to have some sort of confidence in yourself
Yeah.
in order to be crazy enough to believe you can pursue this passion.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And on the subject of heroes, though, I know I asked it and then I answered it myself, but do you have any heroes in the industry that you aspire to be, or you kind of just look to whenever you're struggling to stay inspired?
Yeah, I really, my favorite actors, to be honest, my favorite actors are I love Denzel Washington, obviously.
Mm, of
I love
course.
him. Uh,
Powerhouse.
yeah, I love Idris Elba, one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite actors as well.
Classy guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Will Smith.
Yeah.
And then even recently, like he might be just a year and a half older than me, but I've been looking at his career a lot recently, and I really admire Stephen James. He's a Toronto actor.
Okay.
He was in if Beale Street Could Talk, and he
Great
was
film. Yeah.
also 21 Bridges. And I really admire his acting roles and stuff. So I'll say
Nice.
those are my heroes. I don't know if
Yeah.
Stephen can count as a hero because I guess he's a year older than me, but
Mm-hmm.
I really look up to those actors. I also really look up to Drake. And one of my
Oh, okay.
goals in life
Yeah.
is to bring Drake back to film. Like I want him because
Oh, like the
he's a
grassy
great
days.
actor. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even in his music videos, he still likes to like show his acting chops and
Of
shit and
course.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the
Pop
next
star.
10
Remember
years,
the beginning of Pop Star? I remember that with Justin
yeah,
Bieber. He had a whole
yeah.
skit. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
is this going? And then I'm like, they're going
Exactly.
for it, you know?
Exactly.
It wasn't like 5 minutes until the video had started. You had to
Yeah.
do a whole performance. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my goals is to do a film with Drake. That's one of
Well,
my
Drake
goals.
is a native. Drake is Toronto native, and
Exactly.
he helped bring the city into a new light. I commend him on that. I think obviously I enjoy his music, but maybe I'm not as much of a fan as you. But at the same time, I do respect that he brings Toronto again to the public eye, and more specifically
Yeah.
American market, like
Man,
Views, the album. He put the CN Tower on it.
I moved I,
Um,
I moved to Toronto because of Drake, if I be
Oh,
very honest.
is that
I
actually true?
actually
Wow, that's
yeah,
amazing,
I'm in
man.
Toronto.
I was gonna ask you like, what is it about Drake? And then it's like, wow, that's a huge tell. That's
Yeah.
actually crazy dedication. I love it, bro.
Not because of him. Like
No, I know, but
but
it
like
was
I
on the
always knew.
list. It was on the
Like
list.
once I went to University of Montreal, like first time I stepped in Canada was when I went to university. But even
Right.
from the beginning of McGill, I knew once I'm done with McGill, I'm moving to Toronto.
For sure,
So,
for sure.
yeah, yeah,
No, that helps, right? A lot of people make their move to a country. It helps, you get a scholarship or you attend school there, right? And then that's where you build your connections and you know like you said, you move to Toronto. That's amazing. And yeah, I would love to see. I know a lot of people that are inspired by Drake. And again, I was speaking to someone in Los Angeles, film director, and he was actually saying that that's on his bucket list, that
mm,
he hopes to have Drake, you know, in a music video, or whatever. And it just shows you the power of the influence he has and reaching so many people. And I think that's what you and I, or any creative really, that aspires to, is the more people that watch your content, the more people that are um, interested in your story, the better it'll inspire them, and you can touch lives,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
And
I think
and
that's
that
very important. Yeah, what's
and
up?
that kind of goes back to what we talked about fame and all that, right? Like
Yeah, of course.
even from Drake's story, Drake was an actor, but then he was on Degrassi, he was killing it. But then he was like, I don't like I like acting, but I'm more in love with the music. He wanted to be a musician. He worked on his music for 4 or 5 years before Thank Me Later, which was 2010. Right, that was his first album. So he was grinding it from when he was like 19 to when he was
Oh
like
wow.
24, 23.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't chasing the instant gratification fame because he could have done it after Degrassi. He could have been an actor, but he knew what he wanted to do. So that's why he's still here today. Like there are a lot of
Yeah.
musicians who released albums, their first albums in 2010, who are not here, not making music anymore. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you need to know what you're good at, focus on being the best at it, work on it, and then whatever comes with it will come with it. But
He developed his craft, man, and that's like we were both agreeing, and in our conversation, is he maintained that fame, right? He finished when he got famous, he was able to not become like a one hit wonder.
mm-hmm.
He made it last. And like you said, that's when I was first introduced to Drake back in 2009, 2010. I remember him in the Forever music video
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Eminem and stuff, because I was a huge fan of Eminem. So I was like, who's this, right?
yeah.
Who's this guy Drake? And these guys are featured in it. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
huge. That's another thing I commend him too, is that he was making like moves. Like when he made a move, it was like a heavy move. And I think he's a great marketer that way, great networking person, where
Yeah,
he just like, he got the Raptors involved, and, you know, that's why I got the key to the city. And I don't believe the Toronto Raptors that win would be on such a level if it wasn't really for that celebrity representation. I really do believe that. 3 million people showing up in the city, that's more than the population of Toronto.
Yeah.
And there were visitors from all over.
Yeah.
It's just, anyone that witnessed that day, to see the scale, the power of, like you were saying, is don't go for the instant gratification, because it's so much worth it if you steadily, you know, go for the long haul, go for the long run.
Yeah.
And that's the attitudes that I think the healthy attitudes we're applying for ourselves going forward, and the projects we collaborate on. So on that note, I really want to thank you again for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Dan.
And I really want to mention, you're wearing a shirt, by the way, that says all in.
Hashtag all in.
Hashtag all in. I love it. And he wore it for this occasion, guys. I don't know if he knew we were going to talk about all these motivating topics, but if that's what I got to name this podcast, it's going to be called All In, because that's how it should be.
Shout out to my church, C3 Toronto. Yeah.
Shout out.
All In.
Great. No, that's a great shirt, man.
Yeah.
I love the message, and I love you again for coming on the podcast. I plan to do more of these.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having
more
me.
collaborations. Of course.
Collaboration. You know, we need to talk about the next things we're working on, because I got like 3 different things cooking. That's great. Concepts. So when we put it together, you know, we're gonna,
of course,
fight them out, man.
Of course, buddy. Yeah, that's what I love about it. All right, everybody, keep creating, keep the dream alive, and we'll talk soon. Take care, Kosa.